This is episode 2 of Mass Tangents Podcast with yours truly, Drew Guffey and
Rob Garcia. And we are the leads for the Winfield PPG Alternative Group. And we're going to continue on with our information that we went over last time. Last time we kind of looked at all the planning and everything that needs to go on before we get our hemp crop into the ground. And so today, since it's been a little over a month, we're going to kind of revisit some of the things that the growers should have gotten done between that time and now. Really, let's look at a summary of some of the things that the growers should have gotten accomplished between the first podcast and the 1st of May. Because essentially, here the 1st of May, we got about a month. Got about a month where we're going to put the seedlings, clones, whatever our choice for our planting is, into the ground. So some of the things that we should have got done, we should have secured our genetics. And by that, whether we chose feminized seeds, and we went over that last time, or clones, we should make sure that we have done that. What do you see? Because you go to a few more facilities where they're producing clones, where they're have growing feminized seeds. Are they stocked up this time of the year in Colorado, or are we at a low point? Because
we're definitely on the incline there.
Okay.
It's like you said, people should at least have their orders, or at least know where they're gonna get their orders from. There's still time. We know you're out there. We know that there's the latecomers to the party. But for the most part, the facilities that are producing the liners or the plugs, the seeded material or the clones,
sure,
that stuff is already starting. If you think about it as a process, to make a viable plant to plant into the field. You're looking at 6-8 weeks, depending on how big of a plant you want. Okay. So, by my math, we're
about right there.
Yeah, right. So that stuff needs to be getting planted. Some people are like to go a little early. Some people like to go a little late. The facilities are starting to run out of space, and things are in the ground for sure.
Now, are you seeing more people transitioning from clones to feminized seeds because of the cost? And are you seeing facilities that are producing seeds, are they germinating them for their customers in some cases, or in other cases, are they just shipping seeds to the grower for them to decide how they're going to put them in the ground?
It seems like the preference is still planting an actual viable plant into the field.
Yep.
Not so much throwing a seed into the field, which that is an option, and it does happen, but people still seem to trend towards having a viable plant. How the greenhouse gets that viable plant, whether if it's a clone, obviously they have mother plants and they're doing all the things. The greenhouse is doing everything. There are definitely some scenarios where the field grower, will give, say, a greenhouse their seeds, and then pay to have that seed.
Basically say, I want to grow this variety.
These are my seeds.
This is my variety. This is what I want to grow. Germinate them, care for them. I don't have the time or the capability. Let's do that, and then I'll come pick up my 15, 20, whatever, 1,000 germinated and established seedlings.
Yep, and that's definitely the cheaper option. The somebody gives the greenhouse their seeds or the genetics that they want to use. And then the greenhouse just charges a straight up fee to germinate that.
From a past grower like yourself, is it easier to care for a clone or a seedling at the start of the process?
At the start of the process, probably a seedling.
Okay.
Just because the clone doesn't have any roots, and the seedling, if it germinates at all,
it's got some roots.
It has roots, and then you're off and running.
Okay.
And in the seeding situation, the germination, you always germinate extras.
Yep.
You account
exactly.
for that.
Yeah.
for that loss.
So if you need 15,000, you germinate 16,000.
Yeah, and you do the same with the clones.
Okay.
You always plan extra, to account for some loss. But those first couple weeks of cloning, it's a very delicate process for a couple weeks.
Do you think that as we go through, is there a better time? Like I would think that in the greenhouses, too early, you're still battling cold temperatures outside the greenhouse. Too late, now we start battling warm days, and we actually have to deal with that the greenhouse is getting too warm and too hot. Is there a better time to germinate or to develop start with your clones?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you have consistent weather patterns, greenhouses, indoor facilities of any kind, they're controlled environments.
Sure.
They do have the power to level that
through ventilation and some heating units.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's but this time of year, it's the right time to get started.
Yep.
So it's just something that they deal with.
Sure.
In Colorado, we can be 80 degrees on Sunday, which is what they're saying.
Yep.
And potentially 40 degrees on Tuesday.
So you might have the ventilation on one day, and then you might be pumping heat into the greenhouse.
But that's Colorado.
Sure.
If we're in Florida and everything's nice flat line, it's a little bit different. But in the world that we live in currently, that's
you got to deal with what comes.
Yeah, you just got to roll with it. So, as far as taking care of those clones, if you end up receiving the clone early, say you receive something early May, I personally wouldn't suggest planting anything in the field in Colorado until mid-June, really.
And I think we've had enough crop years consecutively since it became legal to grow hemp in the state of Colorado that we know that if you get them in the ground in late May through even, I've seen some very successful crops planted June 15th. Our weather, our sunlight, our climate is perfect to where you get a finished crop.
Yeah, I personally really like that June 15th date.
Okay.
Mid-June, just because you're eliminating that frost risk.
Exactly.
And
you have a more consistent weather pattern at that time. Long days, lots of sunlight.
Everybody gets really excited about these huge plants, and they're like, oh my God. But, what did it take to get there, right? And was it worth it?
Sure.
And especially in today's world with the hemp pricing and all that, it's an expensive plant to plant, and you have to maximize your input,
right,
and balance your output. So you don't want to plant too early and then lose a whole bunch and have to restart or not.
And you still think that you get a fully mature plant even out to that June 15th, because that's really what I've seen. A lot of these smaller growers, they don't have the manpower or the resources to get everything in the ground one day. This is a process. So many clones, so many seedlings go into the ground per day.
Yep.
So you may start, and we've always used right around or right after Memorial Day, and then and it takes a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You get 3,000-4,000 out a day, even with a planter. So
just depends on how much labor you have. If you're a family operation.
Well, I think that's a diminishing return. Yeah, we could hire a bunch more guys, but how do you hire guys for 2 or 3 weeks and get anybody with any level of expertise or with the process and do a good job? It's better to have the guy that knows what he's doing do it a little slower, do it right, so your survival rate's higher.
Yep, exactly. So I think we went a little bit deeper on that one.
Yeah,
that's okay.
And then so the next thing, and this is something that there's still time, but for the people that wanted to do some water and soil testing, but maybe didn't get the samples sent off, they got a little bit of a window. What I'm seeing right now, some samples that I've sent in, I'm getting a turnaround on data of about a week.
Yep.
By the time you get the sample mailed, they run the test in 48, 72 hours, write you a report and get it back to you. So we still have a little bit of time. The thing with the soil and water is I'd get a little more concerned that we could actually do anything with the data. Do we have time to do soil amendments? Do we have time to put in some type of a water treatment process?
Yep.
So,
and I don't think that you need to get too caught up on that stuff because, the ideal situation is doing things in advance, but there's ways to do it in season while the crop's already in. We can buffer water, we can fertilize the field. That stuff can also happen simultaneously while planting.
But really, it should be something that you probably need to get it in if you're going to do it in the next couple of weeks.
And I'm obviously speaking directly to the people who, just coming off the ski hill.
Oh yeah. Procrastination is big in the state of Colorado, so we procrastinate, but we should look at. We still have time, but it's closing rapidly. Yep. The other thing, then the next thing is because we've had some fairly, bad weather. We've had some spring snows and rains. It's kind of hard to get out. Still coming. We have some for later this weekend, apparently, even though it's going to be in the 80s next couple days. So, finalizing their field prep and making sure that because we are in a situation right now, not only with the types of products that Drew and I are recommending and utilizing in our programs, but also plastics, irrigation. These components are in short supply right now because of everything that's going on in the U.S. supply chain. And so people need to make sure that they have what they need and don't overlook and wait and hope that when you start to get plants and ready to put, clones or seedlings in the ground that, we're out of drip tape. We're out of plastic. We don't have what you need. And make sure that you get that stuff, secure it and get it installed so that you're ready.
Or at least get it in your barn. Something.
Make sure you have it. Make sure you own it.
Yeah, that's been a big thing, not just in this industry, but all these industries.
Absolutely.
Just with freight and just international supply in general. So, and I think that goes right into our next point of weed control on the fields. We're seeing the same thing: the availability of herbicides. I've been working in the herbicide industry for 30-some years. Never seen it like this. And what we're experiencing is because we've had a couple pretty dry years, we didn't have the last couple of years this natural moisture in the spring. Natural moisture. There's weed seeds that lay dormant for huge amounts of time. So I'm seeing more germination on bare ground right now than I have the last couple of years. And it's just because it's been snowing and we've had rain. And so we need to look at our weed control plan. And now is going to be the time you can still get by doing some weed control in the fields, whether it's on an all organic or a modified organic synthetic program. We can do our weed control now. We don't have crop in the ground. We can go out and clean up those areas. And there's enough time for that product to oxidize off more or less. So that it doesn't affect your crop when it's time to plant.
Traditionally when you look at some of your just traditional non-selective herbicide cleanup, 2 weeks is the recommendation traditionally on a lot of products for the time from whether you're seedling, germination, whatever, to after you make a herbicide application. So we can start to clean some of those areas up, get the area, get the farm ready to go, and still have 2 to 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks till we get to that planting window.
Yep.
So, but that's again something that we need to do now. So really, the next 2 weeks are critical for these guys to be ready for when they have plants in the ground, so that then their focus can change to taking care of those plants.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So, and we've talked about both types of clones versus seeds. How early before you would put your clones in the ground? How early do you want to take that plant material?
I mean, ideally, in the perfect world, which we don't live in,
we have shipping issues, we have availability issues, we have all these other factors that are coming into play.
But in the perfect world, the sooner you can plant that material directly into the field upon receipt, the better off you're going to be.
Okay.
But what we typically see is that the producing facility of your clone or seed,
they have a schedule.
They have a schedule as well. They have a delivery truck. They have whatever that scenario is. They have space that they need to free up for other scenarios. But, typically, I see people sitting on product or take delivery and they're sitting in somebody's garage or a barn or whatever for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And that can cause some serious problems if they're not cared for right. If they're, typically they come on some sort of rack system with wheels.
Yep.
So, if you don't have the ability to put them down in a greenhouse, a covered, environmentally controlled situation, and you have to leave them on those racks. Obviously, the more space you can give them, the better. The more light and sunshine you can give them, the better. Whether that be, LED lighting systems or wheeling them out into the driveway.
I was amazed at. We had just set up out at Rifle some new LEDs, and they're amazingly small, grow LEDs, and they're 30,000 lumens a unit.
Yeah.
So a half a dozen of these, it's like the sun's on in the barn.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even seen people with the micro LEDs line the bottoms of the shelves so that so not take them off the shelves and put them out on the tables like what we've done. If you have that ability, that's obviously the best case scenario. Okay. But I've seen people put light stripping on the bottom of the shelf so that the shelf below gets some light the whole way through. Nice. If you're on a cart or whatever, or some sort of crate system, the centers are going to be dark and you're going to get those plants to stretch, and that's going to be, it's going to cause challenges. Mm-hmm. If you overwater, like some people do, you get disease and, bad things happen when they're condensed like that and not taken care of properly. So. Would you recommend then, if you had the space, to get them off the racks, 100%. Get them out onto one layer, get some lights on them so we can water, we can continue with some nutritional supplements? I know last year you recommended, you're a big fan of the Plug Special. Yep. You want to explain that a little bit? I know you had said that it was a little easier formulation for the small plants. Yep. So the call it a 13-2-13 type analysis. The one I'm talking about is a water soluble product, very affordable for anybody really. Sure. But that has it's not going to encourage a huge growth. Mm-hmm. It's going to more or less just maintain the nutrients for that plant to just kind of stay put. Yep. Keep a healthy plant. Keep a healthy plant while not encouraging it to grow like crazy. Right. Okay. It'll have a nice little micro package in it to give it the micronutrients that plant needs. But if you can supplement with that and some lighting, that would be the ideal situation to hold plants until we get to that planting day. Yep. If you give them too much nitrogen, as you know, those plants will start stretching out on you, especially if they're in a darker situation. Yep. They'll start looking for light. Yeah, looking for light for sure. But yeah, nice micro package with a low nitrogen content. Okay. That's what you're looking for. Do you know offhand if that product is a blend of nitrate and ammonium? Yeah. So that one will have low ammonium. In it, so it'll be more for the pure nitrogen, right? Readily available. Readily available stuff. So it's going to be more of a nitrate based versus ammonium ion or urea based. Exactly. Okay. Yep. It's not going to be that huge urea where it's just straight to the plant. Just little bits of available to keep the plant in a good healthy form, so that when it does go out, we don't have planting shock. We don't have tall, leggy plants, so they're laying over because they can't hold their own weight once they get outside in the wind and the elements. Exactly. Yeah, you get that. You get I've seen them before. You've seen them too. Sure. You get something with a plug this big, but the plant's this tall, right? And then you put it in the ground, the wind blows, and whoop. That's all we got. And sometimes they stand themselves back up, and sometimes they turn, and now you got a weird shaped plant. So
Got it.
typically it'll survive as long as you don't break that stem. But that's pretty much what you want to avoid.
Right.
But if you do get something that's too big, you can also top those plants.
Is that going to change the shape of the overall?
It'll change the shape, and you'll just get a bushier plant that way.
So instead of having one large upper flower area, you'll have multiple smaller ones.
and in a a smokable flower situation, that actually will really help.
Give you a better looking quality.
Well, you'll get more flower
per plant. Rather than that one large upper cola, you got lots of quality secondary cola flowers.
Yeah, you cut off the leader, and it's like Medusa, right? The cut off one and two more come.
I wanted to go a little bit into the seeds.
Okay.
In the situation where I'm working with the guys out at the Reffel facility, we are germinating our own. So instead of having one of your greenhouse customers, etc., germinate our feminized seeds for us, we are germinating them. They are germinating them themselves. And so I just wanted to go over a little bit of how we're kind of planning for it. A lot of it's stuff that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
We're utilizing the LEDs, and we are doing a dark pre-plant, soaking them for 48 hours in the dark. Real traditional seed germination.
Are you soaking them in water, or are you putting them into
We're soaking them in water.
Okay.
And then we are basically utilizing a tweezers. Right before we plant them, we are taking the very, very small amounts, micrograms actually, of the mycorrhiza that we've used in the past. And then also, just as we're an ultra low concentration of our Gravity PGS, which is a cytokinin, gibberellic acid, auxin formulation, and trying to get just a little bit of those two materials. We got tons of data from all over the industry on utilization of mycorrhiza for root mass formation and better establishment, and then the same thing with the Gravity PGS. We actually, in our other markets, we actually put it on right at the seed.
That's I mean, you could even put a couple drops in your solution that you're soaking them in, and that'll help speed up that process.
We've done that. Yeah. We've done that, and so and then basically the guys are picking them up with a tweezer one at a time,
making sure not to break the.
Making sure not to break it, making sure they have a viable seed. So we're using some small magnification to get a good look. One seed per spot. It's a slow process, but we got about 95% germination success last year. So the process is giving us good rates of establishment, and we're only losing, less than 5 seeds per 100.
And I really like what you're doing there. It's a little monotonous for my liking. I'm more of a fast guy. I'd risk losing more to save that labor and time, but if that's what works.
It's amazing that because we're pulling back a little bit and some other factors at the facility. The number of plants that are going out, trying to focus more on a plant that can get that smokable, high-grade smokable flower level quality. And so we are trying to make sure that we have a high germination rate, and then that we have a quality seedling. Again, better quality seedling to go into the ground, better establishment, less loss in the field, so we don't have to go back through the rows and potentially put out a second plant because we had poor quality seedlings, and you can lose them in the germination, you can use them in the establishment process, we can lose them out in the field.
I mean, I think the standard there is quality in, quality out, right? I think you're nurturing your process, you're nurturing your product,
and then focusing on root mass. Trying to get as much as possible. I don't care how big they are, but when I look at the containers and when you take them out and get them ready to put into the planter, I want to have some root mass. I want to have as much as humanly possible.
And that's a good point. And I don't know that we've talked about this yet. A difference between the seeds and the clones, the root structures.
Okay.
With a clone, you get a more fibrous lateral root system because it was a clone, where the seed, you get that big taproot that'll go down. So specifically in drought situations or low water, whatever your watering situation is, wherever you are in the country. I know Colorado is facing a potential drought this year.
Exactly.
So a seed in this scenario might be better because you'll have a deeper root system.
One of the things we adjusted when we went from the first 2 years of clones to the feminized seed process, which is now on year number 3, is we changed how we put our drip tape in. We put our drip tape lower to wet the area and draw that seedling taproot deeper, and we got a lot healthier. The other thing that we noticed is because of the taproot system versus the fibrous root system that you get with the clones, we did better in the wind.
Yeah.
There's some windy days in Colorado. The wind blows around here.
Yep.
So we had better survival rates later in the cycle when you have this large plant in late September from a clone, fibrous, maybe not deep, kind of shallow root system, and you got big plants. Now they're on the ground and start lowering the quality of the product.
Yeah.
So we felt like we did a lot better with a taproot system than with a fibrous clone root system.
And I think regardless of which way you decide to go with your crop, the benefits of PGS and developing that root system, and the PGS specifically mixed with the Gravity Amp, encourages those, the hormones that are in the PGS mixed with the fertilizer package of AMP, just really focuses on that root system. So the sooner you can get that PGS on there, and
that's why we're doing it right away at germination.
Yeah.
And then also a supplemental application, and we've used AMP early on, and then AMP, small amounts of AMP with the plugs, with the 13-213.
Yep.
And it's been a very good. We had really good success with the mortality after planting, that critical 2 weeks after planting, because it was amazing how, with a good root system, how healthy they are and how large they can be 2 to 4 weeks. And a lot of the crop by the 1st of July, so essentially a month after planting, they were bigger than a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
It was because of the root system and the care in that early seedling germination and planting stage.
Starts from the foundation.
So it's been a good process. I think that it's a simple process. I get a lot of people questioning if it's too simple, but one of the unique things when you talk about the 13-213 or the AMP, these products have a lot of things they're not one nutrient. They're micronutrient packs. They're different forms of nitrogen. The AMP has some kelp and some humic acids and some other readily available liquid nutrients that are easily taken in by the plant, even in the younger stages of development. So it's something that it's a simple program. It's a cost-effective program, but it's also shown to be an effective program.
Yep. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with you there. And I think all around, I said it before, it's not rocket science.
No, it's not.
It's plant science. Come on. So, you don't have to use all these different products. Winfield has simple but complex singular products.
Right.
One and done type things.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be this, that, and another. All
I think
mixed in.
sometimes in a lot of the newer industries, we tend to have companies, and we saw that a little bit at the convention that we went to. You got some really complicated programs, but as we walked around and talked to people and asked what other people are doing, a lot of guys are keeping it pretty simple. The successful guys seem to be simple agronomic principles and practices and doing stuff meticulously in the same so that they know if there's a mistake, they can backtrack through their records and figure out.
And it definitely makes it easier if you have less targets to look at. You have a better chance of finding the right one.
Is there anything that you can think of that we haven't touched on that should be done or needs to be done in the next couple of weeks prior to that when we have thousands of seedlings out in the
Right.
field in the middle of Colorado, and now that's going to become our focus and what we're going to carry.
Right. No, I think we've kind of checked all the boxes there. Just in preparation, we know we have latecomers that are still going to be scrambling
always
to
are.
the finish line, or always is.
What would you tell someone if, say, hypothetically, 3 weeks from now, guy gets a hold of us, you or myself, and is like, guys, I think I'm putting seeds straight into the ground.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plant. I'm gonna plant it like corn.
Yep.
I'm gonna roll furrow. I'm gonna plant. I'm gonna bury it. I'm gonna turn the water on. I'm gonna germinate in place in the soil. What should I look for?
What do you mean? What should you?
I mean, at that point, they don't have time to buy genetics. Probably not any clones available. I know a couple of years ago I was looking for extra clones, and you did some calls, and there was nothing there. So you're down to seeds at that point in time.
Yeah, seeds are super available at all times. Yeah, I know I personally have people or customers that are sitting on millions of seeds.
So we got lots of genetics.
So we have lots of genetics to choose from still.
Okay.
We can obviously help those people get in contact with each other. But specifically, if you're going to do that, I would very much encourage on the water wheel or whatever it be, the PGS and AMP application at time of seed. Give them that extra juice, and as soon as that plant starts germinating, it's going to have those nutrients available. And
got it. Okay.
It's going to go. So you're going to lose some, so be prepared for that. Maybe I don't want to say double plant, because if you I do hear some closeness of more seeds per row type of deal than we would do if we're going to do clones, or we're very consistent, approximately 2,000-ish per acre is going out, pretty standard. We're actually going to plant it a little. Some of the guys I've talked to are going to plant it a little lower and put some roads in over, again, experience and knowing that when these crops are full size in late August in their flowering, September flowering stages, they pretty much touch. You don't leave yourself some ways to get around in your field, you can't do anything. Yeah.
So we are lowering our planting per acre.
I think we talked about the number of rows, having a driveway so you can either spray or get
do whatever. Just get it in the crop.
Whatever it is.
Exactly. So we are doing that, but otherwise, I have seen a few people try the planting into the ground. I have not seen great success.
I think a lot of the problems with that comes around how they water. A lot of people, especially this time of year, think that they're going to rely on Mother Nature, and then they come in and then they put their drip tape. They plant the seeds. And then they put in their drip tape or whatever.
They're not prepping ahead of time.
They're not prepping it ahead of time. And I've seen some pretty rough fields who've tried to do it that way, and more or less, dry land stuff. And Colorado specifically is so unpredictable with the weather. Right now we are getting some good moisture, but I don't know.
Could turn off tomorrow.
I don't know about next week.
Nope, exactly.
And if that's the case, you spend a lot of money on seeds, you're potentially going to lose a lot of money.
Well, and one of the things that I saw on a couple of sites where they decided to plant old traditional seed in the ground, corn and beans type of process. They didn't think about the weed control portion. And as those, your seedlings, we're going to have, might have 6, 8 inch or, depending on when we started our germination or how big our clones are when they go into the ground. They struggled because they had small seedlings, and then they started applying water. They had some germination. They had some weed control issues, and the weeds choked out a huge portion of the crop.
And that's a big importance of the planning, from the field prep to the weed control. We said it in the last episode about the people forget that weeds are a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're growing weed, but weeds are a thing, right?
These weeds and those weeds all like to grow under these conditions with a little bit of fertilization and some water.
Right.
Go figure.
Right. So, and that's part of why the industry still trends towards having a viable plant
Yep.
up front and not planting that seed.
Sure.
Because at least you have a plant that's this tall or this tall
Yep.
when you're sticking it in, where you go with the seed. Now all of a sudden, if you have a weed that's this tall and no seed at all, it's already.
I've always liked germination under a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And with a crop of this potential value, if we have a good quality crop of high concentration, I think that it's gonna do better, and overall you're gonna have a more viable profit.
Absolutely.
Because we're not doing this, just because we're trying to actually grow material that has the ability to be sold. And, we reiterate that all the time. What are you going to do with your product?
Yeah.
Don't wait until the end. So that comes back into play.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. And yeah, all that adds together to, have a good plan, know what you're doing, know what you're putting in, know what you're getting out.
Got it.
I think it all comes together.
So kind of to wrap up, in addition with the information that Drew and I put out today, Drew is going to do some tours, and we're going to add some footage of some of the facilities that he works with that are working on genetics, and we'll be adding that to the presentation. So not only the information we've provided today, but also some good visual will be added to the podcast when we finish it up.
Yep.
So, anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think we got our plan.
Yep.
Plants should be coming close to being in the ground if they're not already.
Can see the start.
Yep. And as soon as we get warm enough, I think we're going to go into the ground, and I think that's where we'll be at for episode 3.
And again, if anyone has any questions, reach out to us. And we can try to help you guys answer anything you're uncertain about as we go through the last month prior to the actual planting in this part of the country.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
See ya.